Hello, this is just a quick video showing off this new build that I've built, which is part of a larger build which should hopefully be coming out in the next few months. Now this is an adder, which is obviously a bit different to stuff I normally work on, and as this is my first dabbling in any computational redstone, this probably isn't anything new at all, but I thought it was interesting and I wanted to show it off. So what's cool about this is that it uses comparator priming in order to make this take 0 ticks. So from this repeater turning on, and I realize it being a repeater technically makes it not instant, but in theory you could use another input. When this repeater turns on, our output will change at exactly the same time. So this uses comparator priming to work. So just in case you're not aware of what comparator priming is, here's a basic example. So if we can pulse a comparator, even with a pulse that doesn't turn the comparator on, such as this observer, exactly 1 tick before powering it properly, it will actually power on instantly. That is to say, if we look at this in slow motion, the comparator turns on at the same time as that repeater and off. Whereas if we didn't power this observer here by removing its input, you can see that the comparator turns on, as you'd expect, 1 tick after the repeater. So it's just a little quirk of comparators, and using some clever logic you can kind of chain it together to make more complicated instant logic. So this was the result. Now if we look on this version here, this has some modifications such as some inputs here. Now obviously this looks like it's adding a lot of delay, but really this delay you could get from somewhere else. You just have to trigger the priming before your inputs arrive. That doesn't have to necessarily be in this kind of setup, but it's just how I've chosen to do it. So what we can do is, if I select all these inputs, I can then randomize the inputs using a world edit command. And we can see that also all our outputs are going to be in sync, such as this. So I can just keep, spamming new inputs, and we'll do that. If I do it in not in slow motion. Now, of course, because we have that input delay associated with it, it's quite hard to tell that it's instant. But at the same time that our inputs change, we're going to get a power into this lamp here, and from here we can see that it is happening at the same time. So you can ignore that input delay for all intents and purposes, and you get a 0 tick adder. So yeah, it's pretty cool. The main interesting thing in this is the carry, which is just a little chain of comparators locking each other out like so, which I think is quite cool. And all we have to do to make that work is to update them from the bottom up. So we'll update this dust here going into this comparator, then this one going into this comparator, then this one, all in order. And the way we control that update order is by using a water tower with changing between an upwards and downwards bubble column. So this will go up and update all of them in sequence. We also have to update every other point in it. So we can have a look at this quick sort of base model here, which shows sort of one sort of stripe of what's going on. We have our initial XOR here. This has to be primed first. So we do that with a low tile tick priority component, such as a repeater. We then need to prime the inverter a little bit later in the tick. This inverter again a bit later in the tick. And we have this carry, and then finally the other XOR later in the tick, and a couple of other bits which kind of ended up working themselves out. So so we can see this in the actual thing. We have, this was for our initial XOR, this is for the inverter, just a bit later, this powers before this. Then we have, it goes into our priming of the carry up here, and then finally our priming of the final XOR, which comes in through that rail here. So that we get that one to go later by actually triggering it with delay of a piston going down a cobble wall from the top. So there's a bit of control on the top circuit as well. But yeah, so I don't think there's anything necessarily new in here, but I thought it was cool. We now, I now have a bit more experience in this, and it's quite satisfying just to randomize the inputs. I have checked some of these and they are correct. And yeah, just instant adder. I can obviously go more into depth if anyone is interested in this, but I just kind of wanted to show it off because I was quite happy with how it turned out. So yeah, that's a first redstone you'll hear from me in a year and a bit, and hopefully it won't be so long for the next one. Thank you for watching.